reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. At that time, when Jesus heard of the death of John the Baptist, he withdrew from there in a boat to a lonely place apart. But when the crowds heard it, they followed him on foot from the towns. As he went ashore, he saw a great throng, and he had compassion on them, and healed their sick. When it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a lonely place, and the day is now over. Send the crowds away to go into the villages and buy food for themselves." Jesus said, "They need not go away. You give them something to eat." They said to him, "We have only 5 loaves here and 2 fish." And he said, "Bring them here to me." Then he ordered the crowd to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke and gave the loaves to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And they all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 12 baskets full of the broken pieces left over. And those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. The Gospel of the Lord. Today we are celebrating the 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Our Gospel reading opens with Jesus Christ mourning the death of John the Baptist. Of course, this was really affecting Jesus, bearing in mind that they were cousins. His death had really affected him, and again, he was his precursor. And he has chosen to go to a lonely place, to be away from people, that he may grieve and mourn the death of this his cousin. But people wouldn't allow him to do that. This is because we are told, "But when the crowds heard it, they followed him on foot from the towns." We are seeing a crowd that is very hungry for Jesus Christ, and they are making every effort to make sure that they meet him. When he is in need of his own time, the crowd is looking for him, that they may listen to him and that they may have their sick also healed. And here we are getting a lesson from Jesus Christ, that when he really needs his time and the crowds are looking for him, he has no option. He sets apart, or rather, he kind of decides not to have his own time and chooses to listen to the needs of his people or of his followers. Very important for all of us, particularly the pastors of soul. We are being challenged today. At times we feel that we are tired, we feel that we need our own time, we need to rest. But there is also another call of duty. Some Christians are in need of our services. What do we choose? Do we choose our rest, or we choose to go and serve? Jesus Christ has taught us that we should never be our own priority. Rather, the people that we serve, the Christians that we serve, must always become our priority. And when they call us or they call on us, we must be ready to respond like Jesus is doing in this particular instance. And we are told that they went on foot. They were too hungry for Jesus Christ. They had that desire for Jesus Christ, that they even chose to walk to the place where Jesus was. My dear Christians, when we make effort to go and find Jesus Christ, when we decide to sacrifice and walk to the place where Christ is, to go and meet Christ, We are never left empty-handed. We are never left unaided. We hear that on meeting Jesus Christ, they really had their sick healed. And I also want to think that Christ also gave them some spiritual food in terms of preaching. He proclaimed to them about the kingdom of heaven. Christ was able to respond to their needs. And above that, we are told that when it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a lonely place, and the day is now over. Set the crowds away to go into the villages and buy food for themselves." Christ, having preached to them and also having healed their sick, they still have that urge to continue listening to Christ. They still have that urge to remain with Jesus Christ. But again, the disciples are a bit worried. Why is it that our master is not sending these people away? Why is it that he wants to continue being with them? Yes, yet it is late in the evening. And therefore, they suggest to Jesus Christ that he sets them away. But Jesus Christ does not take that. For the disciples, owing to their helplessness, owing to them being very tired because it is in the evening and they have spent the whole day working, they feel that they needed some rest. They really feel that it is good that these people are sent home. They are so helpless, they can't do much. Because even when Christ challenges them to give them some food, they are so helpless. They have nothing that they can offer to these crowds. My dear people, at times we are so helpless and there isn't much that we can do. We feel that we are so limited. We feel that we are so insufficient. We feel that we are suffering. We are so deficient. There isn't much that we can offer. And when Christ challenges them to offer what they have to as food for this big crowd, they have really nothing. They feel that they are helpless. The only solution that they have is to send them away. Two opposing statements or two opposing feelings. One, the disciples feel that they need to be sent home. But what does Christ offer? Christ says, tell them to sit down. At times, human beings are so helpless, all that they can do is to send you home. But Christ offers us another opportunity and tells us to sit down. The helplessness of man can only make us or can only tell us to go home or let us go home. But Christ tells us to sit down. Christ tells us to sit down. Because Christ has a solution that human beings don't have. Christ has got another way of doing things that human beings do not have. When you feel that you are so helpless and you feel like sending them away, remember that Christ, on the other hand, is telling them to sit down. As you are being told to go away, remember that Christ is telling you to sit down because he has got a better solution. So, Christ goes on to ask them, they need not go away. You give them something to eat. They say to him, we have only 5 loaves here and 2 fish. If you were to read this from the Gospel of St. John and Luke, you would hear that even what they are purporting to have was some package that a certain small boy had. And what they had in pocket were only 200 denaries and nothing more. And now they are asking Christ, what is that compared to this whole crowd? What is that? We have so little. Even if we decided to share, it is not enough that we share and everybody gets a piece. And therefore, for us, it is practically impossible to feed this crowd. It is practically impossible for us to use the resources that we have and feed this huge crowd. Today, I want us to learn this simple lesson that it is not good that we judge our problems based on our resources. And that is what we do in several occasions. We see how deficient we are. We see how limited we are, and then we think that it is not possible. Everything that we have is quite much. It is actually enough for us and even for other people. It all depends on whose hands it has been placed on. When we have these things on our hands, they remain quite little. But when we place on the hands of Jesus Christ, they are quite much. They are quite much. And therefore, let us learn to take our little resources to Jesus Christ. He is able to multiply. And He's going to make it enough for us and even for other people. And therefore, never judge your problem in the light of your resources. Take your resources of what you have to Jesus Christ for multiplication. It's going to be enough. And therefore, we must learn to take all that we have to our Master, who is willing and ready to multiply for us. When we remain with the little that we have, it is going to remain little. And it is going even to become more little if we do not present before Jesus Christ. Having said this, we also acknowledge the positioning of this young boy. And this gives us another lesson. Dispose yourself for God to do something. Always dispose yourself for God. Put yourself in a place where God can spot you. I want to think there were so many other boys who had something that they had carried for themselves. But probably they were lagging behind there, or they were playing far there. But this small boy was so close to the disciples, so much so that the disciples were able to see this boy is having something. And do you dispose yourself or position yourself in a manner that God can spot what you have, that you may become a big blessing to yourself and also to other people? Let us learn to position ourselves accordingly. Why are you always behind there? Can't you come forward with what you have so that the disciples and Jesus Christ can spot what you have and therefore be ready to come forward with what you have? So that by positioning yourself, God may use your resources to bless you and also to bless other people. One thing we must underline is that this boy did not need this miracle. He didn't need this miracle. He had some food, and so he was comfortable. But he used, or rather, he brought forward what he had, knowing so well he was not in need, so that other people can be blessed. Our selfishness will one day kill us. When we are not ready to give what we have and to present what we have so that it can be used to bless other people, then we are going to make even other people suffer. Be also ready to give what you have, that other people may be blessed through you. And then when these 5 loaves of bread were presented to Jesus Christ and the 2 fish, Christ says the blessings, and there is much more than they actually needed. See the miracle here. See what Christ is doing. He is using what they have so that they may also get much more. Let us bring what we have that we may have much more. He invites his disciples to go and distribute to the crowds. The disciples were not able to multiply the bread, but they are able to distribute. Play your part. You may not be able to do much big things, but at your own given time, Christ is extending an invitation to you that you may have an opportunity, that you may have a chance, and this chance is meant to make you serve other people. And Christ is also inviting us. The disciples were given that chance to go and distribute to other people. That is an invitation. Accept the invitation to participate. The boy was ready to participate. The disciples are also ready to participate and offer their service to the crowds. You are also being invited to offer what you have for Jesus Christ. You are being invited to offer your service because that is what you can do in your limited way. That is the best that you can do. But be ready to offer yourself, position yourself that God can make use of you. We also realize that when all these were distributed, the disciples were requested to go and collect all that remained. Because Jesus does not entertain wastage. When we receive blessings from God, let us not also entertain wastage. Many people are suffering because we have some individuals who are really wasteful. We should not be wasteful, dear Christians. What you have can benefit other people. If you use only what you require, only what your body requires, and then you give some other things to other people who are really needy. Today we have this lesson that we should never be wasteful. Don't be wasteful. Another thing that we also learn, our willingness to go to meet Jesus Christ. I want to see some levels of the needs that these people had. One, they had some people who were ill. They were healed. They also listened to him proclaiming the message of the kingdom, and therefore they were spiritually nourished. And now they are getting physically nourished because God is supplying for their needs in terms of food. That is our God, who does not allow us to suffer so much. He is ready always to share our sufferings with him. He is ready to take up and in fact to take care of all our needs. And therefore we must go to Christ. These people are looking for Christ. They made effort to go. In fact, we are told they went by foot to meet Christ. And for that reason, they were blessed. Me and you, are we willing to go and meet Christ that our needs may be met by him? That is a great question that we need to ask ourselves. Make some effort to go and meet Christ, and Christ will meet your needs. I repeat, make effort to go and meet Christ, and Christ will make effort to meet you and your needs. All kinds of needs, spiritual needs, physical needs, even your psychological needs, social needs. Christ has got that solution. And we are told those people who benefited from that miracle, they were about 5,000 men, not counting women and children. See how God blesses his people. See how abundant blessing, how God has abundance of blessings for us. And therefore we need to turn to Christ and be ready to go to him. We make effort to go to him that we may receive his blessings. And also we be ready to share in his ministry. We be ready to share in his ministry, in our weakness, in our strength, and we are going to be positioned so as to have a better room to serve Christ. That is why in our first reading he is giving us a very special invitation. Come to me. Come to me. Those who are thirsty, those who are, and you are not going to pay anything for the benefits and for the blessings that I'm going to give you. Christ gives us his blessings for free. All that we need is to make effort to go and meet him. And once we meet him, we be ready to listen to him. We offer our problems, we offer our illnesses, we be present with him. He is going to take care of us. Are you willing to go looking for Jesus by foot? Are you ready to walk and meet Jesus? Don't remain at home. Don't remain at home. Go, make effort to go and meet Jesus Christ. You'll have your share of blessings. Our Mother Mary, intercede for us. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.